Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to episode 25 of Cryptozoology's Survival Let's Play. In this episode, I want to do something a little bit different because it's that special milestone of 25 episodes. So I thought in this episode we're going to do a bit of a world tour, so that's going to be really fun, and because of that I'm actually in a backup of the world right now, so that's why I'm in creative even though this is a survival world, so we can go around and break things if we need and it's not going to really mess up our actual world. So where I am right now is where the whole series began, and right in front of me is my starter house of this entire series. So this is where it all began. This is what I built on the first episode. This is where we put all of our essentials for a brand new Minecraft world. So we had our furnaces down here, and then we had some storage under the steps in these barrels, and then up on the top floor we had even more storage. And then after we built this, I decided that we needed some place to grow some wheat. So just out the back of our starter house, I built up this little bit of a garden back here, and I think it's super cozy and kind of aesthetic back here with this little pond, and it's just super cozy. If we fly up here you can see it a little bit better, and that just really kind of started off this world with building this house and building this garden around the back, and I really love how this is even to this day. And then after we did that, I built up a bit of a library because we needed somewhere to have our enchanting table and do all of that stuff. So if we come into here, you can see this is where our enchanting room is. So we have stuff like books in here to enchant and lapis and all of that stuff that you need in a world. And then even back here we have our mending villager. So you can see we've got some mending books here for only 1 emerald, so super sweet. We have quick access to mending books, and we obviously have that on all of our tools in this world. After I built the library, I decided that I needed a better food source. So I built this building right here, and this is where we actually have a bit of a cow farm. So if we come back into here, you can see there's all these cows in this hole, and you can breed them up, and once it exceeds the maximum capacity of 1 block, they just automatically die. And then the drops go down here, and then you've got your leather and what would be the steak. So that's kind of what we used for some early food, and that was super helpful. And then we had even more storage down here, and like a lot of my interiors, they're not finished yet, but that's definitely a project that we can continue to work on as the series continues, is getting some more interiors done. So after I built that, I actually built up this gigantic storage house, and this is where most of our storage is even to this day. So if we come on into here, you can see that it's got tons of chests inside, all labeled with all of the things that we need for building, and kind of essential because you've got to stay organized in your worlds, or otherwise you're going to not know where any of your stuff is, and that makes it really difficult to build things and work on projects. So also up here I have a bit of a place for some nether wart to grow, and some blast furnace, and just a cartography table and a loom. So just kind of those things where I had nowhere else to put, I just kind of threw back here. And this is kind of what I would consider like my main house in this world because it has all of my stuff. And then also back here I have this awesome little docks area. So this is where people could be coming and delivering supplies or taking supplies to go deliver to somewhere else. And I have this awesome little boat design here. I'm pretty bad at building boats, so I'm still pretty happy with this even though it's quite small. I'm quite happy with how that came out. So after we built this storage house, we had all these buildings here, and I decided that I wanted to turn this thing into an entire village. So what we did was we kept building different structures and just trying to make this place as cool as we could possibly make it. And something I also forgot to talk about was our nether portal here. I'm super happy with this. It's kind of like this fantasy style coming up out of the water nether portal. But what's special about it is it has some redstone where if you press this button, some blocks actually pop up out of the water, and you can jump on those and hop over and get to the nether portal. So that's super fun and kind of a little parkour challenge to get into the nether. And that's just kind of something fun that I decided to add and helped me work on my redstone a little bit because I'm quite bad at that. But what we basically did after that was we kept working on these different buildings. In this one we actually have a sugarcane farm, so we can check that out. You can see we've got some redstone here, and down in the basement I have a way bigger version because obviously that one up top isn't going to give us that much. So this is kind of our big one, and all the drops come into this barrel, so it's been emptied quite recently, so there's not a whole lot in there. But this is kind of where we get our paper from so that we can make rockets and do all of that kind of stuff that we need to. And I can also show you out the back. There's a bit of a nature area where they're actually growing it, so it's kind of like the aesthetic version, and then inside is the practical version, so I really like that. While we kept working on our main village, I decided to expand over to this little island and turn it into a bit of a mining district. So if we come on down into this area, you can see we built up this custom little mine shaft, and this is super cozy and adds a lot of atmosphere to the world because it kind of shows where they would be getting all of their stone and resources from. And this is actually where we put a bit of a mining area. So if we come down into here, you can see there's this gigantic hole in the ground, and this is where we're actually getting all of our stone, cobblestone, andesite, all of that stuff that we're using for building in this world. So this is basically where all of the castle resources have come from, is this gigantic hole in the ground. And kind of all of my worlds actually have one of these because you just need somewhere to get all of those resources, and this is kind of the best way to do it in my opinion. And then there's this bubble column that brings you all the way up to the top. I thought it would make sense to have a couple house/storage areas where they could be storing some of the minerals and also the workers could be living. And then I also added a little bit of a dock area off the back, and you can see our beacon is coming there out of the ocean. Looks pretty sweet. But yeah, after we built up this island, we did all this terraforming and everything on it as well. I kept working on our main village, which would eventually turn into the village Pharos, because we built up this lighthouse here, and this is kind of the main build or main attraction of this whole village. So I decided it would make sense to name the village after it. So Pharos basically means a light, so with it being a lighthouse, I thought that would make sense, and I'm really happy with that, and I think it's a pretty cool name, which of course you guys helped me name, so thank you guys so much for that. But we also have a few other builds here, like this blacksmith, and a couple more just kind of houses to finish up the village. These houses here don't really have interiors or purposes, they're just meant to look super duper cool, which I think they do in my opinion. But I also added a little bit of a village center where they've got a well, and this is kind of where they could be meeting and chatting with their friends. And I think it's just a really cool place that adds some life to the place. And then you can see also throughout the village we have some crop fields. So this is potatoes, they've got some carrots over here, and then in the middle area you can see they've got both potatoes and carrots, so that's super awesome. And then I also added a bunch of trees all throughout, and all together with that, it just kind of pulled the whole thing together, and we have this gigantic village which is now known as the village of Pharos. After we finished our amazing village build, it was time for us to get started on the next project. So you can see we have this roadway that leads off from the village, and this actually leads over to a castle build. So we're gonna go check that out right now. It's super cool, probably one of my favorite things that I've ever built. So we have this roadway, it's kind of hard to see, but it goes all the way through this birch forest, and it's gonna lead over a river and head on over to our castle. And at this point in the video, I'll also mention that there's gonna be a world download for this, so if you guys wanna check out any of this for yourselves, you can do so. But just letting you know that it's only for Java edition, so if you're playing on Bedrock, unfortunately the world download won't work for you guys. But maybe someone can convert it, and if any of you guys do that, let me know and I will share it with the rest of you guys. So as you can see, our castle has just finished rendering in, and this is so cool. One of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, and this was actually my first time ever building a castle. So I'd say for our first time we didn't do too bad. I basically call this castle complete, but there's still some interiors that we need to work on, and we're definitely going to be getting to those as this Let's Play series continues. But you can see the castle wraps all the way around. We have all these different unique towers, designs, all these big gigantic walls wrapping all the way around with all this custom terraforming, custom rivers. And this has been one of the biggest projects that I've ever worked on, and I'm super happy that we stuck it out, got this thing completed, because it's looking super duper cool. But let's go take a bit of a closer look at it on the inside. So you can see we have this bridge, and let's actually walk over the bridge from the ground. As building this in survival, everything was kind of designed from the perspective of the ground and looking good that way. So you can see we walk up this path, and the gatehouse here is just looking absolutely insane. The scale of this thing is kind of crazy, and it just looks so grand and just fortified and all of that, and that's kind of what I was going for. So I'm really happy that it kind of has that effect and that kind of vibe. But we have this terraforming out front with some custom trees, and it's got some flowers and all of that stuff, really just kind of mixing in the nature with the stone. I think kind of creates this cool contrast. But we can head on into the gate here. It's cracked open a little bit so that people can get through, but you know, nothing too big can get through unless someone comes and opens this gate all the way out. But you can see this is our main courtyard area. We have this monument, which I've kind of imagined is where they built this entire castle kind of surrounding. So kind of some, fantasy back style to it, I guess you could say. Just kind of something fun to throw in there, add a bit of life to the place. But we have all these custom trees surrounding the courtyard. I think it looks super duper cool. And we even have a bit of a market stall. And back here are some stables where we have our horse Artax, super cool dude chilling there in his gold horse armor. And really in this courtyard area, I just tried to add as much color as I possibly could, made it look super interesting, and this is one of the interiors that we actually have finished. And this is where we have all of our storage for this castle area. So you can see we have all these chests and barrels, and inside are all of the resources that we've been using to actually build this castle. And we have these beds that we can sleep on, and an ender chest with all of our shulkers and everything in it. But we can head on over into, this is actually one of the walls, so this is where some of the guards would be hanging out, watching for people, or looking out these windows, seeing if any invading ships are coming, things like that. Just adds a lot of life to the place as well. And if we follow this is what leads into our kitchen, which isn't fully complete, but eventually there's going to be an awesome little kitchen area in here. This is where we have some furnaces. But if we head on back in through here, across the wall again, we can actually go up higher into this tower, and this is one of the towers of the gatehouse. So you can see we can come up further. We have the super colorful wall, which I love, and a bit of a map of our castle, because we've been updating it as we've been building, so it was convenient to have a map in here, and I think it's kind of cool just to have a map at the actual location. But this is a pretty big tower, so there's even more to explore. We've got a little hangout area for some guards and a bit of an arrow slit, so if people are coming this way, they can have their bow and arrow and be shooting at them, defending the castle. Every castle's got to have one of those, and this can actually go up even higher to this floor here, where there's more arrow slits, more places for guards and other people living in the castle to hang out. And this leads over to our portcullis, and this is the mechanism for it. So they can be pulling on this, a bunch of them, and it's going to lift the entire gate and then, I don't know, wrap it around this beam or something. I don't really know how they work. I just tried to make something look cool using these new chain blocks that we have. And then you can see, yeah, not all the interiors are done, but we're going to keep working on it. And my goal is to actually finish all of the interiors in the castle, as this is one of my favorite builds, and I'd love to have it 100% complete. But we'll see if we actually do that. It's going to take us quite some time. But we can head up even higher into this tower. We've got this little area back in here, more arrow slits, more places where they can be checking out these windows, and we've got some awesome views into the ocean. And we can head up, that's right, even higher. So let's go into here, and this is where they have some living quarters for the guys. So they've got some beds, and they even have a little bit of a loft up there. Let's actually go up there. It's pretty cool. So we can just hop on into here, and they've got a window where they can be, checking this out. And it's kind of hard to see with this white glass and the light. Yeah, great window here. You can definitely see a lot, but it really just looks cool, and it's super cozy up here. If I were living in this castle, I'd want this loft spot because that's just awesome. But let's head on back down again and keep exploring the rest of the castle, because there's definitely a lot to check out. So we can head on over into this other courtyard area, and this is where we have a bunch of market stalls and stuff like that. So right here we actually have a bit of a well, and this is where a bunch of people could be getting their drinking water from. Every castle or medieval build has got to have one of those. And then we also have a bunch of market stalls, so this is a bit of a flower shop. Over here we have a book stand. This is meant to be a bit of a clothing shop. And then this on the other side is a bit of a food stand where they're selling some fish and carrots, and they've got some bread over here. And that's also why I have some seating areas, so people could be, buying some food and then sitting here and eating that, or maybe getting a nice book and sitting on this bench and reading it. I think it just really adds a lot of life to the castle. And that's also why I added a bunch of vegetation to the sides to help break up this gray, add some more life, some more atmosphere to the place. And then we can head on over into here, and this is actually our gigantic keep, which we haven't finished the interior on yet, but I want to be doing that super duper soon. You can see just how much space we have for this place. Just imagine how many different floors and bedrooms and kitchens and, a big feast hall and stuff we could add in here. But let's keep exploring this area. If we wrap around over through these market stalls, we actually have a bit of a stables area where we're storing a bunch of different horses that the different soldiers could be using, or maybe the royalty. So every castle's got to have one of these, the horses that they're using to travel to different places. And also if we cut through here, we have this awesome blacksmith area, which is super cozy. So this is where they would be forging all of their tools and their armor, and I really love how this came out, super duper cool. But that actually wraps up the tour for our castle area. So let's fly on up here and take one little last look from the outside. And there's two other places in this world that I actually want to check out. One being our gunpowder farm, and the other is a bit of a village area where we have a villager trading hall. So I definitely want to show you guys that, and I'm going to be leaving the locations to all of these different areas. So if you download this world and are wanting to check out the different places, I'm going to leave the coordinates down below, and you can check it out and know where everything is located inside of the world. And there's also a map room in the village of Pharos, so you can check that out and know where things are as well. But let's go check out our creeper farm. So I quickly just wanted to show you guys that we do have a creeper farm in this world, and this is where we get all of our gunpowder for making rockets as well as TNT, so that we can blow up the nether and look for ancient debris. So that's kind of how we did that. And you can see also up there we have our AFK platform. But yeah, I just quickly wanted to show you guys that. And next, let's go check out our villager area. Not too far from the rest of our builds, we have this villager area, and there is actually an original vanilla village here. It was the first one we ever found in this world, and we've kind of converted it into this industrial area where you have a bit of a villager breeder. So you can see this is a bunch of those guys that have been bred up, and then we've been putting them into our villager trading hall. We can actually go take a look in there right now, and kind of the plan for this area is to do an entire village transformation, but we haven't done too much work on it yet. And you can see this is our villager trading hall, and all of these guys have 1 emerald trades, so we get stuff for super duper cheap. You can see this guy sells sweeping edge for 1 emerald, unbreaking for 1 emerald. What does this guy sell? Yeah, mending, 1 emerald, flame, 1 emerald, all this cool stuff. And then we have a bunch of different types of villagers. We've got a stonemason here. We can turn a bunch of stone into emeralds. And this is actually, if you noticed in our mining area, we have a full emerald beacon. This is how we've gotten all of those emeralds. So this place is super practical, and I actually got this villager breeder design from Logical Geek Boy. I definitely recommend checking him out. He has a bunch of great tutorials and is super great at redstone and all of that stuff. So yeah, just quickly wanted to show you that we do have this area as well that we're going to keep working on, and we also even have a bit of a snow farm here, just a bunch of cool random things. And eventually we're going to be totally transforming this place to have a bunch of different buildings kind of looking like this in this sort of style with the red roofs. I think looks really cool in contrast with the snow, so that's something I'm really excited to keep working on. But yeah, that's actually basically everything that we've built up in this world so far. Let's go jump back over to the castle actually. I wanted to end this monumental episode off at my favorite all-time build, which is our castle ShatterMist. And I just quickly wanted to thank you guys for all of the support. I started this series about 4 months ago, and I've had so much fun working on it, and I can't wait to keep making these Let's Play videos as well as tutorials and a bunch of different things that are coming in the near future. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to leave you guys with a bit of a cinematic of all of the different builds from this series, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.